The nude lip and the smoky eye, it's such a classic combo and for good reason. It's such a go-to look for evening that never goes out of style. But what are the origins of this look? Well, that's where I come in. Let's do a deep dive today to see what Nefertiti, Lauren Bacall and Kurt Cobain have to do with this look. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Eb. I'm a Sydney-based hair and makeup artist, and this is the culture of beauty. So I don't think I've mentioned this on my channel before, but I'm also a cultural strategist. So I've worked in marketing for over 20 years now, and my role is very much around figuring out what the cultural pulse is. So where audience preferences lie, what the kind of mood is in culture. So I love studying people and studying how like small things can have a big impact on the broader sort of cultural consciousness. So that's why I really enjoy this work. It sort of combines my two loves of like, you know, ethnography and anthropology and social sciences with doing fun stuff like hair and makeup. So that's why we're here today. We're going to do a deep dive into the origins of the smoky eye. In doing the research on this and in creating this video, it feels very much a sister to the previous video I did on the history and cultural impact of eyeliner. So I will link that here as well. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Okay, let's bring up my mood board. So the inspiration is very much, yeah, like that Angelina Jolie, Cindy Crawford, Tyra Banks, even like the Linda Evangelistas, very much that bombshell kind of smoky eye, really matte look. I think these days there's a bit more kind of shimmer that's added to these looks, and they were very cool tones, so that's what I'm going to lean into as well. So yeah, smoky eye, I mean, where do we even start? I've got a whole other video around the history of eyeliner and the cultural impact of eyeliner, and I will link it here, but that actually plays a huge role in the origins of the smoky eye as well. I'm mostly going to be using this palette. It's the Tarte Clay Play Volume 2 palette because it's got quite a few good sort of neutrals in here. And they're pretty cool toned, so I'm going to lean into that very much. So I'm going to start with this color Instinct and just apply it all over the lid just to create a base shade for me to blend things into. In that video, I explained that the bust of Nefertiti was discovered by German archaeologists in 1912, and then later in 1924 it was unveiled to the public. And this caused sort of like what they called it at the time was an Egyptomania, so a real kind of obsession with that exotic, as they called it, Egyptian look. All the fashion magazines and the makeup styles were really heavily influenced by Nefertiti and the ancient Egyptians. So prior to that, in the Western world, prior to the 1920s at least, it was that very sort of plain-faced Victorian type look that was really popular. And then post the unveiling of Nefertiti's bust, that very defined eye look started to become popularized. I'm going to go in with this shade Dunes, which is a very cool brown shade. It's almost like a grayish brown. And I'm going to use my Morphe M433, just a fluffy brush. I'm just going to get it into the outer corner and this crease here. I'm actually just going to go in just above my crease because my eyes are quite hooded. I want to ensure that you can still see the product when my eyes are open. So this Egyptomania across the Western world coincided with the silent film era. And these really embellished eye looks helped the makeup really stand out on camera because the film technology wasn't so detailed then. That more defined eye look really helped the eyes pop on screen. So you'll see like artists like Josephine Baker, who was really popular at the time, She always has that quite sort of hazy, smoky eye in pictures. It looks really beautiful because she's got such big doe eyes. So that was a real signature look of hers. And also a lot of silent movie stars at the time. I'm sort of bringing it out a little bit too. Then I'm just going to go over this with a clean brush. And this is just another Morphe blending brush. And just buff out those edges so the lines are just not so harsh. So the looks that were seen on screen were very much mimicked by the people of the time, wanting to emulate those stars that they idolized. So now I'm going to start to deepen this outer corner a bit further. So I'm going to use this Peri Pera Pinterest palette. It's got quite a nice deep cool brown. So I'm going to use a kind of a short, fluffy, firm brush for this one. This is just an Eco Tools brush. So yeah, while the discovery of the smoky eye felt like quite a new thing in the Western world, it's important to note, and again, I cover this in my other video, which I've linked, that in the Middle East, this was a very established look. In the Middle East, kohl liner had a very long and sacred history, and it wasn't just used for beautification, but it also had medicinal benefits and protective properties. So I'm getting a lot of fallout, but I'll clean that up after. But you can see I'm just really focusing on that outer corner. And as I said, because my eyes are quite hooded, I'm just dragging it out a little bit too. So I'm going to use that first brush that I used and just blend those colors together a bit. The trick with a smoky eye is very much not to overblend. So I'm just trying to place the product down and just slightly smoke out the edges. So from here on out, I'm gonna be talking more about the popularity of the smoky eye in the Western world rather than some other parts of the world, which I cover in another video, where it sort of had more of an enduring popularity. Here's how we're looking so far. Okay, now I'm going to take my Tarte Fake Awake liner and I'm just going to line the inner corner. I'm just going to blend that a little bit with my fingers. So yeah, as film technology starts to develop past the 1930s, there's less of a need for these really bold looks on camera to make the features pop because the cameras are able to now pick up details that they weren't able to before. So we start to see this softer, more diffused look on camera. And actually one of my favorite examples from this era of cinema is Lauren Bacall's The Look. So the look was this head tilt and look up to the camera. The look became Lauren Bacall's signature, and she says it came about by accident because tilting her head this way would help her stop from shaking because she was so nervous acting on set opposite Humphrey Bogart, who she would go on to make many, many films with, and he actually later became her husband. But yeah, that look and the soft eye and everything that was a part of that look really became her signature, which is really cool. So now I'm going to go in and deepen this outer corner even more with a black. This is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Dip Brow Pomade. So it's a brow liner and eyeliner product, but I'm going to use it sort of like a eyeshadow in this case. You could also add a wing, but that wasn't really the look of the 90s that we're going for. It was a bit more diffused and kind of soft. So again, I'm going to take this Morphe 321. It's a short and fluffy brush, and just get lots of product on that brush and sort of dab it into that outer corner just to deepen that again. And I'm just almost doing it like I would a wing. So you can see it's just starting to add a little bit more emphasis to the look. Then we kind of fast forward to the 1960s again. So we've got this really popular kind of diffused look, and then Elizabeth Taylor plays this really historically inaccurate version of Cleopatra, where she's got the really thick eyeliner and the blue eye makeup, which I'm sure many people are familiar with. So yeah, Elizabeth Taylor plays Cleopatra, and then this sort of sparks its own pop culture phenomenon. And you start to see these more kind of graphic, colourful eye looks become popular. So think like Twiggy and that sort of mod look in the 60s. So now I think I'm going to take this colour Instinct, which is sort of like a pinky brown, and just use that as a transition color for this inner lid area. I will take this brush that I used just to diffuse all my edges. It's got no product on it, and I'm going to use that for this color. So yeah, then we kind of just cycle through the 60s, 70s and 80s, and this is where like subculture starts to become really sort of fragmented. In the 60s you've got like mods and rockers, and then in the 70s you've got like disco and hippies, and then punks through like the 70s and 80s. And the 80s obviously was known for its really sort of bold color choices. But then we get to the 90s, and this is where this kind of look starts to become really popular. So I'm gonna kind of do all this underneath. I'm just gonna use the same brushes with the leftover product. So this is the one I used for the black. Just gonna pop it a little in the outer corner and join it up there. And this is the first brush I used, so I'm just gonna use this to pull that black across. So yeah, in the 90s, then grunge culture starts to emerge. Now again, I could do a whole video on grunge, which I will one day. Grunge, like many subcultures, was very centered around music. It was very much based around this label Sub Pop from Seattle, groups like obviously Nirvana, Soundgarden, Hole. The subculture was very much about kind of like not trying to fit in with society. Again, we could talk about this all day, but that was sort of the vibe. I'm noticing that I still can't see a lot of that smokiness up here. So I'm just gonna go in with those first couple of colors and just smoke it out a bit more. Now I'm just gonna add a little bit of a pale sort of shimmer, and I'll do it with my finger. I'm gonna use this highlight shade called Timber. I'm just gonna pat it here in this inner corner. The look was very like, I don't care about societal norms and I'm not going to try and fit in. So you would see these musicians just kind of wear the clothes that they would wear at home on stage, like the flannel shirt kind of vibe. And from a makeup point of view, it was a very similar thing where it was like, I don't want to look like I've been trying too hard. I want to look like this makeup's maybe been slept in. So it was that kind of very smudgy, very messy, sort of lived in look. And so of course grunge goes mainstream, and then you start seeing these more sort of diffused, messy kind of eye looks on the runway, but then they start to get applied a bit more deliberately. So for the final step, what I'm going to do is just apply some liner in the inner waterline. I'm taking the same Anastasia product and I'm just using this pencil brush. It's a Morphe M443. So then you start to see this look be applied to like the supermodels, but in a more deliberate way. I'm not going to take the liner all the way across on the bottom lash line. I'm just going to take it about halfway. So yeah, the look that we saw on the runway really applied a lot of the same principles that the grunge look did. It kept things very matte. It utilized those more neutral tones. So it was a real rejection of those quite colorful looks that we had seen in the 80s. And this is where we start to see the nude lip emerge as well. I'm gonna go back in with this shade Sand, just under the brow bone. I'm just gonna take a bit of a dark shade and contour this inner part of my eye just to bring the eyes closer together, because I've got quite bright shades here. It's pulling my eyes apart. So yeah, I just want to bring it together. So I'm going to go back in with Dunes, this cool brown. Now my nose. Now I have to contour my whole nose. So yeah, they were really leaning into these matte nude tones that were appearing to emulate shadows and light on the face. And that's very much where the concept of like modern contouring and sculpting the face comes from, really. I'm just going to use some fixing spray just to wipe away some of that dropout. And then I will tidy up the base. It was almost as though they were using these kind of nude tones to trick us into thinking that this is how those models looked. The look that they started to use on the runway kind of emulated some of those principles that we saw in grunge. It was very matte. It was meant to look very sort of natural in a way. That's why they leaned into these more kind of natural muted tones that emulated shadows and light more than anything, rather than trying to be that sort of bright pop of color that we saw in the 80s that was more obviously makeup. And this is why the nude lip became really popular as well. So it was almost like they were using this kind of shadow and light to appear as though this was somewhat natural for these supermodels as well. They were larger than life, and so it was almost utilizing these techniques to make it appear as though these kind of soft diffuse looks were how they almost rolled out of bed. I'm just going to go in with the Too Faced Better Than Sex mascara. So that's the eyes done. Okay, so for the lip, I'm using this Judy Doll lip liner in number 4. This is a K Beauty product, and it's a really cool brown. So it's almost like a contouring shade for your lips. It's almost like a grayish brown. So I'll overline the lips with this. And now my trusty Makeup by Mario lip palette, which has been discontinued. I'm going to use this color. Yeah, it's like a deep taupey nude for me. Morphe 124 lip brush. So yeah, this is my classic smoky eye makeup with a nude lip. This is like a fail-safe combo. You can use different colors with the same kind of technique. So that's it from me. If you liked this video, please hit like and subscribe to my channel. I post new videos every single week where I talk about the impact of beauty on culture and the impact of culture on beauty. If there are any topics that you're really interested in and you want to see researched and covered here, please drop a comment below. As usual, check the description for all of the products that I used today, and I will see you next week.